Welcome to the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust meeting of Friday, March 14, 2025. We're in Memorial Hall in Town Hall. And the meeting is being recorded and broadcast by Westborough TV. So thank you, Westborough TV. So I'm calling it, being at 9 a.m., I'm calling the meeting to order. And a couple of, before we go to minutes, just a couple of items. First of all, Ken Salzman has tendered his resignation, and after discussion with him, he's going to continue to be available to us as we need consultation, et cetera, on various types of properties or construction-related matters, et cetera, given his background. So I want to publicly thank Ken for, his time on the board. He's been very, very helpful. Secondly, as you know, the elections were this past Tuesday, and Mr. Edinburgh, who's, our former secretary, chose not to run again. So he, by being the select board's representative, had to step down at this point. I have been under good authority that he will seek to rejoin the board via appointment by the select board. And they've been, both the town clerk and the select board have been notified that we need a new member. So in effect, whoever is chosen by the select board will fill basically Ken's space, and then the select board will appoint somebody from their new ranks as the liaison with us.
Got it.
Okay? Just so everybody, any questions on that?
No,
okay.
I just want to publicly thank Ken for his service.
Excuse me?
I just want to publicly thank Ken for his service on this committee.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to do was, because we are right in the middle doing work on a variety of things, is you can appoint individuals to working groups, even though they're not necessarily trustees. We may do that with Ken at some point. So basically, I'm going to make a motion that Alan be appointed to a working group related to some of the projects we have. And I'm going to make the motion, and then we can have a discussion on it. So I move to appoint Alan Edinburgh to the 18-30 Lyman Street, 25 Connector Road, RAP and Homeborough working groups, and move to allow Alan Edinburgh to participate in discussion of any agenda items at the discretion of the chair. Second. Discussions.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor? Okay. We have 4 in favor, 4 being present. So, Mr. Edinburgh, if you can join us up here on the side, and I know you will chime in. And I want to also, on behalf of our board, thank you for your service as a select board member. Many, many years. How many years? 6 years. It felt like 16?
Some weeks.
Or weeks. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is to approve minutes from last meeting, which is from February 14th.
Move we approve the minutes from February 14th, 2025.
Okay.
As presented.
Second.
Okay. All right. I know I reviewed it. There was, I think, one minor nit, but nothing of substance.
Yeah, no, I reviewed
Anybody else? Okay. All right. All those in favor? Okay. 4-0, 4 being present. All right. One of the things we're as we know, is a town meeting. There's an article, and it's going to be related to zoning for ADUs, and it's from the planning board is the sponsor or the petitioner, and one of the things I think would be appropriate for us to do is to send in a letter of support, for that. And, to say that we, because, I'll make a motion and then we'll discuss. All right. So motion is, motion for the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust to submit a letter of support for the proposed changes to Section 7.1 of the zoning bylaws for accessory dwelling units. And I think we have, the next couple of pages in your book there, spell out what the changes actually are. So you've had those. Need a second on the motion.
Second.
All right, Hank, seconds. Discussion.
Yeah, we should support it. It's a real opportunity.
Speak into the mic, please.
Okay, we're being recorded, okay. It's a real opportunity for the town to increase, to make better utilization of the available space and to support families in the community by providing starter home housing and allowing older residents of the town to maintain, to continue to live in the town and continue to own their largest asset and pass it on to their heirs if they so desire.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to sort of add on to that, it also helps bring it more in line with the state statutes, right? So that alone, just to avoid confusion,
Yes.
folks are looking into it.
Correct. Yeah. Just for clarity, the ADUs, they're not ownership. I mean, the person who owns the property, the main residents in the property, continue to own. They can rent the ADU.
Actually, Ed, it's not 100% correct. You do not have to be a resident of either of the units to have an ADU.
Correct. But that's correct. My point was,
They're not saleable units, they're rented.
Right.
I mean, one of the two units has to be rented. One of the two units can be an ownership unit.
right.
So I could move into
Okay.
I could move into
You
an
could
ADU.
move down, right.
And sell my main home, or put it in a trust, or do some kind of things that would allow me I could mortgage it. Any number of things I could do.
I agree with that. I just didn't want people to think
No, it's not-
I can sell a piece of my
Cannot be
property.
separate ownership.
Yeah. Okay. We're on the same page then. Any other points?
Nope, I'm in support.
All right. I'm willing to draft the appropriate letter of support, which they can use which the planning board can use at town meeting, if they so desire. So, all those in favor? All right, 4-0. Next on our agenda is the sewer line rehabilitation project. This is, once again, and maybe Alan, since he's been the one that's been talking with them a little bit more, maybe you can just do a brief intro on what that entails.
Both jacks are down. So yes, this isn't, this request for support isn't related to the wastewater allocation or capacity, things of that nature. This is the town pursuing additional outside funding for significant rehabilitation work to the downtown area's clay sewer pipes, which will both prevent them from breaking and failing, greatly extend the longevity, as well as increase the capacity of the physical flow in the system in that part of town. And so part of the application for the state federal funds that they're going after is letters of support from various aspects of town government.
So this is not a town meeting warrant article. This is a
This is a
grant
grant.
application. So we're supporting a grant application, which sounds like a great idea to me.
Okay. Want to make the motion?
I move the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust support the DPW's application for a Housing Works grant submission.
Okay. Thank you. Second.
Second.
All right, discussion. I mean, it's more information is in your packet, but once again, we'll do a letter of support, to them.
Right, and just let me
Well,
clarify, I mean,
Yeah.
if for any reason the town will incur any expense other than normal operating expense, they'd come back to town meeting looking for it. If for some reason there's a matching requirement or something, they'll come back to town meeting
Correct.
asking for the matching
They would have
requirement
to.
separately, right? Good.
Okay. See no other questions. Move for a vote. All those in favor? All right, 4-0, 4 being present. Okay, all right. What we want to do now is there's a couple of warrant articles that we want to discuss because we may want to do a vote of support. We don't need to do a letter. This would be something that we would notify the petitioners of. And the first is the Article 18, which is subdividing and appraising the senior center property, the current senior center property, at 4 Rogers Road, given that we will be eventually moving the senior center to, the new building at 1500 Union Avenue. So the article, which I think we have, it's printed on the next page in your packet. And basically, it's a transfer from free cash to do, a basic survey and subdivision, because now it's all town-owned property, including all incidental and related costs, or take any action thereof with that. So
help me understand what the subdividing clause means. I understand the surveying. I mean, you got to make sure the boundaries are where you think they are, but I don't understand the subdividing clause.
So
Mr. Edinburgh.
The subdivision is due to the fact that the property that the senior center sits on includes the playground, basketball court, and all the playing fields that are down the gravel driveway behind the senior center and down the hill near Cedar Swamp. And so the subdivision is saying get an appraisal of the property in its entirety and get an appraisal of the property with the playing fields separated out so that the town would maintain that property.
Is the intent to identify the wetlands boundaries also?
I would expect that would be part of it. And the property that currently sits has some fingers that sort of jut out into, and intertwine with property that belongs to the state. And so my request, when I was a member of the select board, my request is that as the appraiser does their work and they look at potential subdivision, that the separation out of the playing fields be as small as possible so that as much land could be available to allow for open space requirements for any future development of the property where the parking lot and the senior center sits.
Yeah, the reason I ask him, I'm suspicious that the playing fields are subject to flooding. And I know that there has been substantial flooding in the area directly west of the senior center, which is where the playing fields are. I don't know where the flooding boundary is, but I know there used to be an SVT trail back there that's no longer there because it's flooded out.
Yeah, I mean, the playing field ground is wet frequently, and it's problematic.
So
they were built before some of the current, they're grandfathered in. Is my understanding from some of the current rules. But they're also recreation, which gives you more flexibility.
Well, but if they are wet frequently, they probably are vegetated wetlands. I'm not an expert, but I would predict that the Conservation Commission, the conservation agent, would consider them vegetated wetlands, and therefore you've got, I don't know whether it's 50 or 100 foot bound, but you got boundaries of no build and such. So you really need to know where the wetlands are.
Yeah, I'm not sure any developer would see that the playing field part of the property is buildable.
No, they wouldn't.
But can you get more for the property if that can be their open space to meet the 60% or the depending on the zoning, the 60% or the 40% open space requirement? And then does the rec department of the town want to maintain the fields and the playground and the basketball court, the basketball court that's there?
Hank, in our discussions with the housing authority. I know, so it takes me a second to distinguish between housing trust and housing authority. So on our discussions with the housing authority, it seems as though there's this understanding that I'm not sure where the actual facts lie here, around the property that the senior center sits on also being a part of the housing authority's property, and the subdivision of that being for senior use. And I'm curious about your recollection of those conversations and what that might mean for this particular warrant article.
I believe that a portion of the senior center parking lot was deeded back. I mean, the deed was given back from the housing authority to the town. Actually, so it's actually written in the deed that that's part of the senior center property. Alan, if you remember better than I do.
A small corner, the northeast corner of the parking lot, encroaches
Okay.
encroaches the property line for the Westborough Housing Authority. I believe if they took the property back, you'd lose 1.5 parking spaces
Okay.
in that corner of the lot. It's a small amount, but the entire parcel, senior center, playing fields, everything is zoned M1. There are no use restrictions on it.
Okay.
There's no restrictions written in the deed for the senior center that the property has to be used for seniors.
Okay.
I mean, the town bought the property from the Rogers family.
Yep.
And then after the town bought it, they carved it up and sold a piece of it, or I don't know if they basically sold a piece of it or deeded a piece of it to the housing authority, which is a separate entity, right?
Yep.
So we will clarify those boundaries. I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't some citizens who think that there was an intent. There may have been an intent, but it was not put in the deed.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So this is a select board, or the petitioners on this article, and they're looking to basically do this survey. I haven't heard much discussion on it in the public forums or anything. So.
No, and I think from the perspective of the Housing Trust and our interaction with the Housing Authority,
Yep.
I think getting clear definition of what the property boundaries are, and getting clear definition of how one would accommodate or continue to accommodate playing fields, and getting an idea of the appraised value will help us and the Housing Authority decide whether we want to contend with other potential uses with the select board and town meeting ultimately will make the decision. Select board will make recommendations, but town meeting will make decisions. So it will enhance our ability to influence that decision if we choose to do so.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely in support of this motion or this article.
Any other
Yeah,
discussion,
wanna-
any other points?
Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, take a vote. We have a motion to support this article, and all those in favor? Okay, we have 4-0 for being present. And can you put? Hank made the motion.
I probably did. I lost track.
Hank made the motion. And
I'll second it.
yeah, it was seconded. And Kristen, if you could notify the select board or town manager and the select board that we voted in favor of supporting this article unanimously, Article 18. Next one is basically Article 22, which deals with changes to the one of the articles in our general bylaws, and it relates to the charges and cost apportionment of basically sewer connections. And, it goes on for a few pages, as you see in your packet there. But it basically is trying to, from my understanding, try to level the playing field, or at least make everything consistent with the cost of, sewer hookups, et cetera, to different individuals. I'm sure this is part of, and once again, it's DPW's petitioner, towards their, long-term dealing with wastewater treatment and sewer treatment. So, once again, this would affect, everyone. It's not anything specific to us, except that it allows us as a separate trust to make sure we're on a level playing field with everyone else. Yes.
I mean, I believe it also enables the DPW director to waive the sewer connection fee for affordable housing
Right.
applications, which is, again, developers like that. In fact, in terms of EOHLC, that if you apply through the LIP program, those waivers count as a contribution from the community to the construction of the.
The other significant change that relative to the work of the Affordable Housing Trust is that the formula for the cost of the privilege fee switches from an identical fee for all single-family homes or all residential units, which assumed 4 bedrooms, to a per-bedroom fee. So a 2-bedroom fee will pay 2 units, a 4-bedroom home would pay 4 units, which will, moderately lower the cost of construction of starter homes and other moderate-sized homes.
I believe it will also, I mean, in terms of ADUs,
Yeah.
assuming the ADU amendment passes, an ADU would be an increased flow.
Yep.
So
Yes.
I won't be able to just hook my ADU to my existing sewer without paying a fee.
Well, potentially, if you, what Director Payant said to the Select Board is that if you've paid the fee, as a homeowner, you've paid the 4-bedroom fee.
Okay.
If your home has 3 bedrooms
Right.
and you build a 1-bedroom ADU, you've already paid for that 4th bedroom, is how they would interpret it. They wouldn't come back. Also, it means that if you have an ADU that needs its own connection to the sewer, that the 1-bedroom ADU, the connection fee would be the 1 unit, the $5,000, and not the $20,000 that it is today.
Okay. Any other discussion on the support for this article? No? All right, take a vote. All those in favor of supporting? All right, it's 4-0 for being present. All right, so can you also notify the DPW, Kristen, that we've supported this unanimously? Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is Westborough TV, and this would be an appropriation, from our monies, from our budget, and Westborough TV over the past number of years, probably 5 to 10 years, has seen increase in, or actually decrease in some of their income due to, as people, as they say, cut the cord, meaning they, are taking things just via the internet and streaming via the internet as opposed to taking it via their cable connection. That has reduced the support for Westborough TV. Basically, they get a subsidy from Verizon and Charter based upon the number of connections that people have across their networks for the cable access, as opposed to internet access. So what they've been doing is looking to see, well, can we recoup some money? Can we create some revenue streams by having a per meeting charge, to various boards? And in your packet, there's a quote, if you will, from the Westborough TV that we would, and they're talking about fiscal year 2026, but we're really looking at this calendar year, 2025, that the cost per if we were to have 13 meetings, we could basically book 13 meetings. The total cost of those meetings would be $8,060 or $620 per meeting, okay, which would include both, the cost of people, equipment, et cetera, their infrastructure, everything that's needed to do both the production and post-production aspects of a meeting for us. So this could be charged either, as we say in there, either quarterly or annually. Basically the motion, would be to include a certain portion, to tune of $9,960 in the trust fiscal 2026 budget to cover this. And obviously, we only pay what we use, so we're not, not saying that we will spend all this money. We're just appropriating it for meetings, however many we have. Alan.
Well, just had a brief conversation with Karen Henderson. She said that they're happy to bill at a fixed rate. They're happy to bill on a per meeting basis. They're happy to do it on 15-minute increments. So that if we have a meeting that runs, an hour and 10 minutes, we're paying for an hour 15, rounded, and not for the full 90 minutes, so that we get the most use of the funds we allocate.
Right.
And just thinking about it, I mean, I think I have no problem with paying. I think paying for the service is great. We should do that. We should make the meetings available to the public via the TV channel. But I just want to make sure that there aren't any unintended consequences, since we're changing our relationship with the Westborough TV. Does that in any way change our ownership of the IP or our control over how it's reused? I just want to make sure that we make sure that we don't inadvertently change that relationship in a way that we lose control over rebroadcast or over the IP. I don't think it does, but.
Right. I think this is really a services agreement where we're not selling our product, which is, the discussion, et cetera, of our meetings to anyone. But
so Westborough TV, while it's a 501c3, historically its funding has come 100% from the town by vote of town meeting, using the franchise payment, what's agreed to in the franchise agreements from the two cable providers in town. The warrant article on town meeting is saying that source of funds isn't as available to the town right now because of shrinking cable TV usage and the state's 3-year failure to address the issue and change the rules to include streaming services. Shame on our state legislatures for not acting on this. So the town meeting will vote to say, okay, since we're not getting this outside source of revenue, we will use town funds to make up that difference. Our declaration of trust lets us reimburse the town for services provided. Now the town hasn't, and sets that expectation that we would. The town's never billed us for managing our accounts in the treasurer collector's office and the finance department, or when the DPW's been helpful in maintaining properties we own, as far as cutting and leaf removal, things of that nature. Given the amount of money the town's looking to provide, the thought is that this is a way that we could reimburse the town for some of the cost of supporting the work of the trust, as well as helping the sustainability of Westborough TV. And we do have dozens of people who watch these meetings on a regular basis.
Okay, other discussion or questions?
I have one minor
Sure.
point, and again, it probably doesn't matter too much because, like you said, it's we may not use it all.
Right.
But the amount here, going off the 16 meetings, it should be 99.20, not 99.60.
Okay.
Again, it won't,
Yeah, we haven't made actually the motion yet.
just in case somebody
It's
does
good to
the
have
math
someone
and-
who's good at the math. I don't do math.
Well, yeah, it's only
No,
40
no, no,
bucks,
that's,
but
that's good.
that's the accountant in me.
Thank you for checking.
We appreciate that. Devil in detail. All right, actually, we need, since you've brought it up, Stephen, if you would like to make that motion that's in our packets.
Sure. So move to include $9,920 in the trust fiscal year 2026 budget for the purpose of covering Westborough TV's cost to live stream, edit, post, and archive recordings for up to 16 meetings of the trust in fiscal year 2026, with the payment schedule to be established with the town and Westborough TV.
Okay, second.
Second.
Second. Thank you. Any other discussion? I mean, we sort of had the discussion before the motion, but that's okay.
All good.
All right, all those in favor? Okay. We will, I'm just trying to see, the next action with this would be to so notify Westborough TV and the town, I guess, to Christie. Yeah, okay. All right. Kristen, if you could do that, just send a note, piece of this minutes. And then we would just need regular, it would be best if we got quarterly invoices from whomever. All right, next is, there's a condo that's an affordable condo in Townsend, is it Drive? Let's
Boulevard.
see. Yeah, Boulevard, which is, development off of Gleason Street over, in the area of the train station, where the individual had bought it originally for, under EOHLC as an affordable unit. They've decided that they want to sell it, and we have an option if a buyer that meets the affordable purchasing requirements is not found, we have the ability to purchase that property and then hold it, try to sell it again, or do whatever we feel is appropriate. But it is deeded, as an affordable unit for 80 to 120% AMI, I think.
70%.
Yeah,
Deeded at 80%.
at 80%. Okay. All right. So there's a couple of options on the what we want to do. So open it up for discussion.
I mean, if the EOHLC process does not yield an eligible buyer at $203,000 purchase price for a two-bedroom condo next to the train station in Westborough, we ought to buy it because we'll easily, it's just a matter of something somewhere in the mechanism that, they ran out of time or something, but it should be relatively easy to find an eligible buyer at $203,000. I mean,
Right. This is sort of a backstop measure. That's one way to look
Right.
at it.
I mean,
It's, so that it just doesn't go to market,
Right.
turn into a market priced rent condo.
Yeah, so I'm with
Okay.
Hank.
Yeah.
All right. So basically,
I'm unsure whether that technically means we exercise our option now, or we notify them, or Alan, you're a little closer.
So,
well, we can do it now. We can wait and see what happens.
no,
I'm not
wait,
sure
but-
if it's on the market yet.
It is on the market.
It is on the
I
market.
checked.
Okay. You want to say something else?
so the trust would want to act now so that the select board can act at the March 25th meeting, so that HLC and the broker who's marketing it is aware that if they're having trouble finding an eligible buyer, they need to notify the trust in the town.
Right. Yeah, it's basically, I think it's option
Option C.
C.
This
Right.
is the same we've done at other
Recommend the
similar
select board
properties.
buy it if it fails.
Yeah.
If the OHLC fails to
Yeah,
find
we've
a
done this
buyer.
before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So-
did send a updated start to the motion.
So if we want to follow the option C, per the, in the packet, need a motion on that.
I move that we adopt option C as written in the,
I think we need to read it out.
oh,
I'll do it.
It's a long
Okay.
one.
All right.
Wait, but there was there's a change to the first sentence, Ed, that I sent to you and Kristen on 312.
I'm sorry, say again, Alan?
In the motion, there's a change to the first sentence.
What is the change?
Instead of, it would start, move to recommend to the select board that the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, acting as an agent for the town, exercise the town's purchase option for the property, and then continue with the motion as printed
Okay.
in the packet.
Thank you. All right. I move to recommend to the Select Board that the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, acting as an agent for the town, exercise the town's purchase option for the property at 3112 Townsend Boulevard, described as Unit 190, Assessor ID 18-5-190 per paragraph 4E of the Local Initiative Program Affordable Housing Deed Rider, dated May 8th, 2015, and recorded in Book 50266 on page 1 by the Worcester Registry of Deeds, provided by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, formerly the Department of Housing and Community Development, as monitoring agent is unable to locate and select an eligible purchaser that enters into a purchase and sale agreement within 90 days of EOHLC's receipt of the conveyance notice or during any authorized extension period. So that's the first motion. There's a second motion.
Well,
that's the option we'd like to exercise, I believe.
right, but then
Right, because
we
the-
need to
I-
we need to
So-
also appropriate. We don't need. It's not spending, but we have the appropriation, which is the second part of that motion.
Okay. So I also move to appropriate $203,100 and the related fees and expenses necessary to purchase the property at 3112 Townsend Boulevard, described as Unit 190, Assessor ID 18-5-190, pursuant to the Local Initiative Program Affordable Housing Deed Rider, dated May 8th, 2015, and recorded in Book 50266 on page 1 by the Worcester Registry of Deeds.
Okay.
Second,
All right, we have a second on that. So basically what this is doing is giving us the ability, we will notify EOHLC of our interest if they fail to sell the property to a viable buyer.
well, we'll have to go to the select board, right?
Yeah, like
The select board for
the select board would actually.
the March 25th
Yeah.
meeting as well.
So
They will
Say
take-
that again?
The select board should take a currency vote at their March
Right.
25th
Yeah.
meeting as well.
Okay.
So
So,
we need to make sure we get this on the select board agenda,
yes.
since our selectman is not a selectman anymore.
Exactly. Now he's just out.
Right.
He's just out, right?
All right,
Citizen.
other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, 4-0.
Just one other question, Ken,
Sure.
related to the property. At the appropriate point in the meeting, we might discuss whether we inform the marketing agent that we do have a program for first-time home buyer mortgage assistance. At the appropriate point in the meeting when that's a viable discussion, we might add that to the discussion.
My only concern on that is we have yet to officially, have documents, applications, document that, for applying for that first-time buyers program. So I'd hate to tell an agent that's marketing the property that we may be able to help them when in effect, we're in a 90-day window. So we may not have
But
it.
again, if we know when we're gonna have the documents, we could probably let them, we can decide. I mean, I don't know when we're gonna have the documents or when the program's gonna be active, but
Yeah, I know Sarah's looking at some of the documents.
Yeah, I started working on them and just with
Yeah.
the rash of select board meetings and run up to town meeting. Now that I'm no longer on the select board, but I'm a member of this working group. I have time to
So now he has copious
accelerate that
spare
effort
time.
greatly.
Okay. All right. Moving on. We're staying pretty much on time. HB Cottages update. Yeah, Hank, you want to talk about some things
We're
we've
waiting
been doing?
we're waiting for the results from phase one environmental on both properties. Don't expect any problems, but we're still haven't got the report from the engineers. The engineers, when Teagan Bond visited the Beach Street property, they identified a couple of things that they've brought to our attention. That we had a basement hatch that was not secured. There's an oil tank in the basement that's got oil in it that we may want to remove. We haven't shut off the water and power and such, and so we may want to do some things. I know, Ed, you're working on thinking about what we ought to do. It's so again, the next step is we need to, Ed and I need to get with the engineers, WDA, and come up with some new plot plans. But that's kind of a technical thing.
Right.
The issue is when we have the plot plans, what do we do with them? At this point, we need to decide: do we proceed to go through the process of getting a comprehensive permit, and/or applying through the LIP program with EOHLC, or do we try to go through the RFP process and make it the task of a developer to go through the comprehensive permit process and the EOHLC process and all of those kinds of things?
Even before we get there, some of the other things we did do is we did meet, Hank and I met with Chief Purcell, Chief of Westborough Fire Department, with the plot layout of 6 Beach, because one of the concerns had been the ability to have fire apparatus, both access and then, egress, have both access and egress from that property. And we had been working on one approach, which was to, develop an easement with Westborough Country Village, which is at the end of the property at 6 Beach, to see if we could put in a gate or something to allow fire apparatus to exit. They were not very interested in doing that, let's say, just because they are hard on parking spaces. They don't have enough. So when we went to the fire chief said if we could do a T, one of his recommendations was a T. So in other words, you drive in and then there's 2 roads that go to either side. Maybe at the end of the property, a fire truck could pull in one way, back up into the other part of the T, and then drive out from the single access road coming in. So, which would require from our, previous layouts, moving things around, and that's what I think Hank is talking about as far as going back to WDA and coming up with some other ideas. Mm-hmm. I think at this point, so that's one thing on that. The water and sewer, I might as well bring that up now. I've been going through issues with the DPW. We did have the water is shut off. So there's no water, like you go in the house, turn taps, there's no water coming out. And the lines were all drained. Ken drained the lines when we first turned off, right after we turned off the water. What the DPW does do, or the town does, is there is a basic fee, even if you don't have the water on, if you have the pipes going to the house, okay, until you, what they call cap those pipes, there's a basic fee, and right now, currently, it's about $113 per month, per quarter, for the water sewer lines that are at Beach Street. Okay, so we're getting billed for that every quarter. All right, comes out to about $450 per year. Okay, until we cap it. I went out, I got a quote from off of a list of vendors or contractors that the town provides for doing this work of what they call capping those lines. And it came in at, and I only got one, I've tried to get a couple of other people, but this came into $4,850 to do it, $4,850. If it costs us only $450, we could basically, we're not underwater until we go out 10 years before we do this, if we were just to pay this. So it's obvious it makes more sense, since we're going to be doing a demo, there's going to be tearing up that, that ground, et cetera, maybe putting in a larger pipe, no doubt, water service and sewer service lines, that we don't do anything like that. So the water is shut off, so we're not worrying about the house getting flooded or mold or things like that from leakage of water pipes for that.
Can I just make a
Yeah.
quick question or comment? When the, I forget his name now, but the police, when they want to use that
Yes, that's,
property, they know
Slut.
the water's shut off, right?
Yes.
So that they
Well-
cannot use the toilets.
Yeah, I believe they know that.
Okay, I just want them to be aware that they
I
should not
believe
be
they
using the
are.
toilets.
right, and
Okay. Okay.
they are responsible. They will get charged if they do
One thing
that.
I just want to clarify based on, can they hear me?
Yeah.
When I spoke to Steve Bakari at the DPW about the capping process, he mentioned like the cutting and the capping has to happen regardless if you do a demo.
Right,
Like you'll have to do this process at some point when you apply for your demo. And so if you do it now, you get it out of the way. It doesn't have to be scheduled. It's one less thing on your checklist that has to happen in order for the demo to happen. And then if you do it now, you're not incurring your monthly rate at the same time. So just something to
Sure.
consider.
appreciate that, Kristen, thank you.
Okay, so we do actually have to pay this fee at some point.
At some point.
Well, either that, or if we did what we did at Baylor Avenue, which is basically the RFP, was to enter into a land use agreement. Basically, we sold the property to a developer whose responsibility was to do demolition and anything associated with that, as well as then the subsequent building of a new house on that property. If we do that same approach, which Hank is sort of alluding to, how do we proceed? That would be the responsibility of that developer to do that capping, et cetera.
Okay,
They
so
would
they
have,
would
yeah,
build
they
that into
would,
the cost of,
excuse me?
they would build that into the cost of
Sure.
their price,
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
with that. Alan?
Additionally, having it done by the developer who's building the project, as part of the demolition, coordinates with the project timeline. It's also something that at that point in time, there can be a request to waive. Because it's part of it's not just a capping because of a demolition, it is
Part of the
It is
development.
part of the development of affordable housing. Whereas if
Right.
we cap it now, there's no, right now, we have no guarantee when affordable housing will be built.
Yeah.
If we sell the property to a developer who must build affordable housing with a certain timeline, then you've got standing to ask for that to be waived, just as we would ask for the privilege fee and permitting and inspection fees to be waived.
Got it. Thank you.
And when the developer goes in there to do something, he's not only going to have to eliminate the existing lines, he's going to have to put in a new substantially larger main going from the street main all the way back for both the water and the sewer. And depending upon whether you do all electric or whether you do gas heating, would have to bring in a gas line also. I don't know which way we'll go, but, and that's a that'll involve opening the street. So, I mean, doing it all at once, when you know where you're going, it will be more cost effective in the long run.
Right. Okay, so basically, we don't have any motions or anything. This is
No.
just an update of where we are on HB cottages. Any other questions? So we're trying to get to the point where we're eliminating as much as possible, any unknown questions, particularly the fire is
Well, it sounds
the key
like that's
thing.
on its way. The
Yeah, I mean,
fire
we're-
chief has given you a
Yeah, we,
solution
Yes.
to our
we got
problem.
direction, we know where
He
we're going.
agreed that, you know, if we could do that, that would satisfy.
So we just need to develop the WDA or whoever it is that
Yeah,
we're,
well,
to
we-
say,
it-
okay, here's the plot plan.
Yeah, Ed and I need to meet with them and say, hey, here's, what can we do, what are the options?
Like the
It's a
fire
lot-
chief is
but
looking
that-
for this solution,
I mean-
where would you put that? How would
When
you do
you,
it?
when you have that, what that does is just preparing you to go forward with either an RFP or with a permitting process. And we need to decide whether we're gonna go through some or all of the permitting process before the RFP or after.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, but that's not on our agenda to make that decision yet, I think.
No,
You know, I want to thank Hank
we
for
need
all
to
the-
start having that conversation.
Yeah, okay, so,
Mr. Chair.
If I may, I'll just remind the trustees that the technical guidance we received from MHP would, for the trust not to do any formal permitting effort, because that encumbers the development with aspects of 30A and other things that we've now gotten exempted by the home rule petition that the town executed. Their recommendation, however, is that we would have preliminary meetings. So, for example, with conservation, getting them to delineate a buildable area on each property, with the explicit understanding that the developer would still have to come back for a final and formal order of conditions for any reclamation work and wetlands management, things of that nature. Similarly, with the planning board, get their agreement on the design, the layout, the engineering, the mitigation, so that the permitting process as a friendly 40B would go to the ZBA, but would go with the support of the planning board, the Conservation Commission, and even at some point asking the select board for a letter of support, so that the more boards and committees involved in land management that weigh in, that they support the project. That's better for the RFP itself. It's better for the permitting approval process down the road, and it makes it much easier to secure state and federal funding if that's available.
all right.
So
Take-
again,
take-
what that implies, Alan, is that we should prepare ourselves to have intelligent, informed conversations with the permitting authorities, but not to go through the formal permitting process.
Right.
That's correct.
What-
That requires engineering and legal support, so we can go off and prepare for that.
Right. What we've been trying to do, I think has been, you know, the goal is to try to reduce as many unknowns as we can prior to issuing an RFP, so that any bidders are, you know, will come in with this cost-effective bid because they'll know where their risks are or are not, or what risks have been eliminated by the work that we've done through our surveys, through our soil testing, through our working with various agencies to make sure we have their buy-in on what we're looking to do. Okay, moving on, project updates with RAP. I think it's been successful.
Yeah, so.
Kate, you want to bring us up to date?
The Metro West Collaborative Development, our contractor with this, I don't know, is that the?
Yeah,
right-
yeah, yeah,
okay.
that's fine.
Has let us know that our funds for that program have been depleted. So RAP has assisted 30 households, all utilizing the stabilization program. So we have used up the funds, and so we made those funds available the end of December, right? And it is now middle of March, so it only took 3 months really to deplete those funds. So that can really tell you the need that is in this community for emergency rental assistance. So not just emergency, but rental assistance in general. So, Alan, before his end of tenureship as select board member of this trust, applied for a grant to, supplement funds for this program through the TD. No,
the TD Bank North program this year is only for assisting individuals in affordable housing that they already own.
never mind then. So That was totally something separate. So we are out of funds for RAP at this point. So I'm wondering if we have more funds available to provide, or if we can figure out how to seek other funds to support this continued initiative, since it was obviously very much needed. And I would invite Alan to speak on this too, since.
Right. And our total, just for people listening, total funds that have been spent was 120.
Didn't we allocate like 150? But part of that was for
For,
administrative.
yeah,
120 for
for
direct
the
assistant,
actual
was the actual direct
payout.
assistant.
And then, not including our overhead. Overhead was another 30 or so.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And
So-
I think you said we had 30 clients?
Yep. 30 families.
30 families.
Yeah.
We have, I guess, just to go out a little bit of discussion on this. I don't know if we want to take any action at this meeting, but we would want to get a proposal or some thoughts from other people, either to fund this with additional monies. There should, I expect, not to be any startup cost with the collaborative, because they already have everything in place, their applications, their infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. So it would, hopefully the overhead would only be the per application cost with them. There wouldn't be a setup cost. Alan, you had a point, you had a question, or?
I think the trust could discuss allocating some additional funds. I believe that with additional information from MetroWest Collaborative Development, such as whatever demographic they have, how many individuals, how many children, how many seniors, how many disadvantaged community, members of who would be considered part of a disadvantaged community, how many households were affected, would be helpful. We could pursue grant funding from private foundations. CHAPA could be a good contact to point us to potential funders. The Metro West Foundation. I'd even go to talk to SMOC, Seven Hills Foundation, going as far east as the Boston Foundation might be able to.
Right. So maybe as an action item, Kate, if you can take it on to ask Metro West Collaborative Development if they can provide us with more detailed information on who, received the assistance from this program. We can then use that to go out and try to get additional funding, and/or decide, whether we want to, as a Affordable Housing Trust, to contribute into that or do a match, something along those lines. So if you could bring that or have a proposal or anything back by next meeting, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay.
Will do.
And Katie, at some point, we need, the fact that we depleted a substantial amount of money in 3 months, the need's probably bigger than what we thought. But then the question is this a bridge program? Or are we looking here at a need for long-term assistance? Because are we, not a polite way to say it, but are we setting people up for ultimate failure? Are we giving people a 90-day or 120-day extension to allow them to solve the problem? And is the process and support in place to solve the problem? Or are we setting them up that we'll be back with more bridge financing because we haven't attacked the core problem, right? We need to get our arms around that before we commit ourselves to continuing to expand the program, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I will definitely ask if we can get a summary of kind of the reasons, the core issues of these requests and applications. Anecdotally, from my understanding, it's kind of all over the place. But I will definitely ask if we can get a summary report of that.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. No, you bring up a good point, Hank. All right, moving along, home borrow program. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but Alan, you had indicated that, basically between you and Sarah, you're working on the loan agreement,
Yeah, and
which is
I've
the
been behind on
key
that.
thing we need.
Yeah, So that's top priority for me right now in all my free time.
Do we have a time frame on that, roughly, when you think?
I'd like to have stuff ready for council review by early next week.
By when?
By early next week. Get it
Early
to
next week, okay,
council.
thank you. All right. 3 Baylor, actually, Kristen's been more our point person with Mark on that, Mark O'Hagan, who's the developer. You know, I think all the permits, just to verify, have been done. There was one outstanding thing, which was, you know, related to the driveway and the sewer lines and water lines, things like that. I think that was the final thing that had to be cleared up.
Yep, everything's in place. I can check permit pro real quick to see if he's had any inspections or anything, but I don't.
But he has a building permit, right?
Yes, he has the permit.
Right.
As far as the work, last time I talked to him, it sounded like work got started until sometime
Right.
later in the spring.
Right. Just for recording purposes, since you don't have a mic, basically the summary is that everything's good to go, and we're waiting on the developer, basically, you know, for spring to come, so that they can start doing the building. The trenching for the foundation has been done. Demo obviously was long done, and property cleared. So hopefully by this fall, we will have a new house that will be able to be marketed, to a family. On 18 to 30 Lyman and Connector Road, I believe we have our final, I know I submitted a few things, Alan, you submitted a few things, for the Lyman Street agreement review with council. And I think it's with their council now, the Colangelo's council. With any last things that they need, I don't think there's anything of substance that we don't have a meeting of the minds on. Still don't have, I don't know, Kristen, from the planning board, if there's been anything you could add that, as far as what they've done?
No, we actually were gonna see if any of you had any
Okay.
updates, because their lawyer is Mark Donahue.
Yes, Mark Donahue is their
And
lawyer.
he reached out to his team to see if they have any updates on their LAU application, if they started that process.
Okay.
If they haven't gotten it.
All right, yeah. Okay, yeah, I appreciate that, because it's really in a planning, we're interested in signing, but there's also some timing, how should I say, limitations, I believe, with EOHLC as far as beginning to ending of the process.
Right. And that was something that we've gone, well, I guess we can talk about that.
If you want to get on mic a little bit, because,
Kristen, does the housing trust get to sign off on the LAU? Since we're a funder?
Is there a spot on the LAU
I
application?
mean, I know
I don't know if the
I believe the
trust-
select board gets to sign off, and I thought the housing partnership, or someone representing the housing partnership, and we are the housing partnership.
So the trust would sign off as, because we are the housing partnership committee,
Right.
and the committee as a whole.
So, I mean, we certainly will know when they're ready to file the LAU,
Right.
because we have to sign off, which means we'll probably want to read it before we sign it.
Right,
Generally, that's a good idea.
right.
yeah.
But it is really important, like just discussing in community development, from Fred's perspective, like in the building department as well, that the developers understand this LAU process takes 6 months to get through. And technically, he's not going to issue the building permits until we have that now.
Right.
So just making sure that everybody's aware of the process that has to happen before building permit. Is
Mark
important.
Donahue certainly ought to understand that. He's not new at this game.
Yeah. So when we have updates, I will give
Okay.
them to you. And it's the same thing for Connector Road.
Right.
Both of those projects.
Okay. All right, moving on. SHI update. We did get the list, and I think it's included in your packets, from EOHLC of what they believe is our SHI, and we were in agreement. I don't think there was anything of substance that, didn't jive with what we had been doing. We are at 11, I think it's 11.7% of affordable housing, affordable units against our total number of housing units in the town. So that's all good news. We did let them know that we hope to have some additional units coming on. Particularly the 18 to 30 Lyman as well as Connector Road are major things, plus the Baylor Avenue
And
development.
and 134 Fisher, which is a new project.
Right, which is a new project.
So we have all of those additional projects in our packet for them to review.
Right.
And then we went back and so on this list, everything's in perpetuity except two properties.
Right.
One was the Westborough Country Village. It says 2037 with an asterisk. And when we went back and reviewed all of the documentation, there was nowhere in any of the decisions a date mentioned for expiration. So we believe that falls in line with that same Ardmore
Because it was done
situation.
under a comprehensive permit? It was built?
Well, yeah, and it was a situation where the town denied it initially, and then it went to the housing committee.
The court, yeah.
And then they approved it, but then we never actually, like, the decision that we wrote after the fact didn't include some things. It was an unusual situation where decisions were back and forth through a couple different committees. So we had all of those. We provided them to EOHLC, and they're reviewing that now. So the hope is that we will get those 87 in perpetuity
That'd be
once
great.
they review that. And then that information that Alan sent over about the Avalon West case.
Yes, we did have, there's an update on that. Basically, the select board and town manager was notified that the case for Charlestown Meadows, also known as at Westborough Station, the residents at Westborough Station, that was something that we had worked on early on, and then it was switched over to the town to keep the affordable units, 24 out of 120 units at that property affordable, because the original permit was a comprehensive permit, and there had been case law, it was Wellesley versus Ardmore, where it was established that since it was under a comprehensive permit, and until the case where the zoning may change to make the nature of that development, if you will, in line with
Conforming,
the current zoning, that it had to remain in perpetuity as affordable. So we just got a decision handed down from the land court where they ruled in our favor, in the town's favor, to maintain that. Now, they still had to continue maintaining those as affordable units. They'd still have the ability to appeal, but who knows? We haven't heard anything beyond that. So that just came down last week or so. So that's good news for us.
And then the other
Yep.
the other one that doesn't have perpetuity on here, 2049 at Indian
Pond.
Homes. So Alan had me look up all the deeds and riders on those properties, and 2 have been sold, and they changed the new rider to perpetuity. So 2
Okay.
of those 9, and then as they sell, we'll watch. So eventually, hopefully, we'll get all of those back.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
And then we did, make sure that EOHLC is aware that you subsidized so that they could get to the 25%, and you can include all of the units on the SHI for those projects. So we gave them a heads up for that.
Good. Wonderful. All right. Issues and correspondence, or Alan, you had
Just very briefly, one of the things I do want to mention that came up and is in part of the transcript and evidence, it's even mentioned in the decision with respect to the property at 100 Charlestown Meadow Drive, the residents at Westborough Station, is that at some point Mass Housing did in fact notify the town of Westborough that Mass Housing was no longer monitoring the rents in the project, and that was the responsibility of the town. So I would suggest as a next step for all of the rental properties on the chart that we verify that the agency, the subsidizing agency listed, is actually still performing the monitoring agent function.
Okay.
And if not, that would be a responsibility that would come
Okay,
to the
so,
town and the trust.
yeah, basically, what we're saying is the property here, just trying to find it on the
So
list. Basically, just like we do with
That's
Ellington,
Avalon West.
Avalon, yeah, is that, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's Avalon
Avalon
West.
West.
Right, but just as Ellington, we've been, they have to report, we need to get a report from Avalon West. And that should be sent to, Director of Planning, and then we can review it as well. And one of the big benefits of that is, since it is 25% of their units, we do get that full 120 unit benefit on our SHI. Okay. I think that's the only two that we now have, I believe, but we should go down and check since EOHLC had the Mass Housing still on there, are those two, is Avalon West and the Ellington properties. Or what we call Avalon Mills on the list.
So, I mean,
That we have
Yeah, but
responsibility to
I mean,
verify.
we, the Housing Trust now are probably gonna have the responsibility as monitoring agent.
Yes,
And my sense is probably the two new developments that we're gonna be funding, we probably ought to be the monitoring agent or co-monitoring agent as part
Yes,
of the.
that's part of the agreement.
So that would be part of the LAU application.
Yeah.
And we then probably need to be sure we have a clear process, that we don't forget that we're the monitoring agent
Right.
and that we
Right.
exercise that responsibility periodically.
yes. Well, one
and
of the
hope-
things that,
And hopefully this spring, MHP or CHAPA or HLC itself might offer the course for certification. So that, then the trust's prior intent, and I believe it's still standing, would be that the assistant town planner would,
We'd kind of make that part of
we
Kristen's
would send
Correct.
that.
job description
Yes,
to
it is part of the job description, and so.
be our
that we-
monitoring agent for the
Yes.
trust. That's great. Yeah, I just,
I was
you
going to say,
need to
how are
have
we going to do
clear,
this?
clear
We
business
pay for the
processes.
tuition for her to go, the travel expense, and maybe a nice lunch.
Okay.
Fabulous.
okay. Any other things for issues of correspondence people want to bring up?
Just, and I wonder, at some point, we might ought to think about putting a sign up over on Baylor Street. Here's going to be the new
Yeah,
affordable home.
coming soon.
That we're funding. I mean, we could probably put it up now if we know construction's going to start soon. But again, just for us to get more visibility in the community as good people.
I did hear one positive thing that a neighbor, either next door, across the street, whatever, they said they finally got rid of this old house. Thank God, They're very, very appreciative. Even if it's just a dirt lot now, it's an improvement over what had been there. Oh, one other thing I want to mention is the SWAT team, as we've discussed, regional SWAT team. It will be using, as we have approved, the Beach Street property for some training on the 19th, next week, so March 19th. But this will be, they're not knocking down doors or things like that, and they will be notifying and putting up signage. They'll be notifying the neighbors and putting up signage that they are doing training, and it will be during the daytime hours.
if they're listening to this, just know that the water is shut off.
The water is shut off, right. Okay. Yes,
I just
Kristen,
wanna-
you have something else?
We got the official acceptance of the housing production plan. We had a few
Oh, right.
modifications that we were working with the consultant to add. They wanted specific properties listed in the plan. So that is official now.
Right, the OHLC has accepted it, so.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Stephen,
Congratulations. Thank
for
you,
your
Steve.
work on that, and thanks to the planning department for leading that effort. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Steve, second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, we are adjourned, and thank you, Westborough TV.